Welcome to the Manifestation and Money Podcast, Melissa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Jen.
Yeah, I would love for you to share with the listeners just who you are and what your story is.
Wonderful, Jen. Thank you. So, my name is Melissa Windell, and I'm a psychic medium. I've been doing psychic readings since about 2006, and I really help people come through a lot of energy blocks, lineage, patternings that they're trying to kind of recreate in a different way, like change the pattern, the course correction, if you will. And then also, I know that your podcast is on manifestation and money, and I teach a psychic school program. And one of the things that we talk a lot about in the psychic school program for those who want to develop their intuition and help heal other people is how to manifest, and also getting in the energy frequency and abundance and worth of money, because you always hear the saying like starving artist. And I feel like healers feel like we just have that salt of the earth and that giving, supportive spirit and soul. And sometimes we forget that, like, oh yeah, we still get to create abundance. We get to have things. And so I really work on also helping them, if they need it, helping them raise that vibration so that they can receive that monetary value for their gifts, so that they can have a thriving life as well as a thriving spiritual life.
Fun. Did you have an aha moment or a pivotal moment in your life that kind of where you had to say, wait a second, I need to raise my frequency or my vibration? Or how did you get into this line of work?
So around the money side or around the energy side? Because they're two very different angles.
Let's do both.
Okay, perfect. So I think spirituality is easier for me. It's more tangible in my mind. So when I was a little girl, I used to see a lot of spirits in my bedroom. And I mean, probably when I say a lot, like about 50 spirits in my bedroom. And it was fascinating because my sister and I shared a room, and we would alternate nights. So one night I would get to sleep. They were very, very kind in that way. And then the next night my sister would wake up and she would see them. But on the nights that I would wake up, they would create a little pathway for me to walk through, and they would just like gently touch me. But the minute I got to my parents' room, they would stop. Well, I was really little. I was about 3 years old, and my sister was about 5. And one night at dinner, about a year later after this had been happening, my sister was able to describe to my parents what they saw because she was old enough to articulate what they looked like. Well, Jen, it turned out it was all of our ancestors. My parents were like, oh my gosh, that's cousin Bill, and that's grandpa blah, 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 and grandma, and oh my gosh, like in detail, like they could describe who we were seeing. And in that moment, I just got this download, and my beautiful little 3-year-old mind was like, oh, my ancestors just want me to know that I'm not alone and they're here with me. And then I never saw them again like that. So my spirituality had really kind of started developing around that. And then I remember we had like a picture of Jesus in the room. And I just remember like Jesus always following me. It was like this, like those paintings that like no matter where you go, the eye follows you. Like that was that painting of Jesus. And I always remember being like creeped out about it. But now as an adult, I'm non-denominational and I ground more into Native American way of being. But I really love the alchemization of Jesus, of what he teaches, that it's like creating miracles out of nothing and healing through the heart. So I've just kind of been on that spiritual path for a really long time. And when I was in my early 20s, spirituality started to become a language, and just more and more things opened up around that. But it was also around that time, Jen, that I remember having my first real money breakdown. I was 20, gosh, was I even 21 yet? I was 20 or 21, and I was living in Arcata, California. Do you know where that is?
I know where California is.
Okay. Hey, it's a great start. Okay, well, so there's San Francisco, and I was about 7 hours north of San Francisco in the heart of the Redwoods. And there's this beautiful college there, and not a lot of people, maybe like 12,000 people. It's a very small town, and it was like 12,000 people and 10,000 jobs. So for 3 months, I had a little nest egg. I was like 20 at the time, and I had saved up 3 months of rent, and it was my first time living there. And in that 3 months, I spent, I'm not kidding you, on foot, because I didn't have a car, 40 hours a week looking for a job. And this was like, I had to go to the library to use a computer. This was before cell phones. It was quite a bit of work. And I remember it was like 2.5 months in, no income. I was looking at what did homeless life look like. A lot of people lived in the redwoods, so I was like mapping out how to live in the redwoods. Like I was preparing myself. And I remember going to this job interview and it was so far away. And I was walking home, and I mean, it's like miles home. And I walked across this bridge and I had a huge fit with God. And I just sat on that bridge and I just started screaming and cussing at him. And I was like, what the F? Like, why do I have to work so hard to be here? Why am I so broke? Like, why can't I find a job? I'm pitting in the effort, like, you need to give back. And it was in that moment that I actually come back to all the time whenever, like, I have an inflow or exflow of money where I'm like, remember that when you're at your breaking point, that's always where the magic begins. It's like you finally are breaking through that wall where you're finally getting to be where you're wanting to be.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
that totally makes sense. We have just had some recent episodes we were kind of talking about hitting that wall where it's almost like the point where you just want to give up and throw in the towel, but it's on the other side of that point where everything settles and it's way more perfect than you could have imagined. You just have to get through that wall, right?
Yeah, it's like that breaking point when you're really like you've had enough of it. And I just say it's almost like where your ego finally dissolves and you're like, okay, I am claiming this and I don't know how. And you can't think your way through, you can't will your way through anymore. You have to literally spiritually weigh yourself through. Where it's just like, okay, like I give this up to you, God, or spirit, whoever you believe in, and it's going to happen whether you like it or not. So make it happen. You know? And there's this deep surrender where it really is like a death of an ego at that moment.
That's a good way of putting it. And what I found fascinating with you starting this conversation is you leaning into the spiritual side is more tangible for you, which my mind is blown by that because I started this podcast. I was way more comfortable talking about money because to me, money is the tangible thing. Money is just there. It's everywhere. There's an abundance of it. We can just go get the money. Whereas bringing in manifestation and the spiritual aspect for me, I was like, this is what I believe in, but how do I wrap my head around even trying to articulate this to other people? So I love the fact that for you, that is the tangible piece of all of this. So for you, or even when you're working with clients, where do you see, I know you like to deal with shadow work and self-love, right? How do those kind of things play into how a person is showing up? Because those are two very big areas to delve into.
Yeah, I mean, I think the shadow work, which is like our dark hidden side that for whatever reason we feel ashamed about or we don't want people to know about. And then our light side is what we want the world to see, right? It's like the sun and the moon. And one of my prayers I say every morning is I say, "Good morning, Grandmother Moon. Thank you for shining light on my stillness. And good morning, Grandfather Sun. Thank you for shining light on my actions." And that shadow piece of us is just a part of us that has forgotten that we're loved. And when we forget that we're loved, we make it wrong or we make it bad. And when we're hiding from that place, we're not wanting to be seen, it becomes like the undercurrent, like a riptide, right? Where it's like, oh, the ocean looks so nice and playful, but you get out there and there's something underneath the current that like takes you in a direction you're not wanting to go in. It's like Bruce Lipton talks about the unconscious is what you end up creating. I don't necessarily want to say it's unconscious because it's conscious. You've just chosen not to love it or honor it. I always tell my clients that work with me for long periods of time when we're doing like deep shadow work, I'm like, I'm going in the tunnel with you. I have a flashlight. You have a flashlight, and I'm not going anywhere. We're going to go through this together, and I'm going to hold your hand. And there's going to be times where I'm not going to hold your hand. Not because I don't love you, because the path requires you to have your own strength to walk through. But knowing that you have me in your back corner anytime you need it, right? When you start to love parts of those selves, you're no longer denying who you are or your past. And the more fully, compassionately, authentically, and joyfully you can show up in the present.
Yeah. Tying into manifestation here, do you think there's a correlation to somebody who has a bunch of shadow work they need to do, almost blocking themselves from manifesting the things they want?
I think it's a yes or no question, and it's not black and white, Jen. It really depends on the person and the amplitude of the shadow work. So I'll just give a personal example that's coming up for me. So for about 12 years, I wanted to manifest a house. But this is not part of this, it's part of the manifestation. But for 12 years, I thought that the only way I could buy a house was through my dad, through him co-signing for me. And for 12 years, he kept saying, I can't co-sign for you because I co-signed for your sister and I can't put that much on my credit, right? And so for years, here my sister is building all this badass equity, and here I am, like single mom in the rental struggle, right? So I built up a lot of resentment and anger and bitterness. And fast forward 12 years later, my dad had a massive stroke, and I was caretaking for him, and it was like 2 a.m. My dad never slept. It was really, really fun when you're the 24/7 caregiver and you run a business and you're a single mom. You're like, sweet, who needs sleep? But I remember asking him, and I was like, why wouldn't you ever co-sign for me? And he looked me dead in the eyes and he said, because you were never stable enough for me to want to support you in that way. And that created so much blood and rage and fire in my body. And it was like that dagger that goes straight in my heart. And it was the best medicine, because I sat back and I was like, wow, like that's what you've always thought of me. And then I looked and I'm like, with his upbringing, I could see how I looked super unstable because it was a grassroots. And I just lived on prayers and the hard work. But when I looked back, I was like, wait a minute. Damn, I was like, I'm actually the opposite of stable. For 12 years at this point, I've been raising a daughter single-handedly and paying I live in Colorado, and one of the highest places to live in. And I have a car payment. I have all the things that I need. I eat organic, and with a grassroots business, like I'm actually extremely stable and secure. But what happened in that moment was I realized that I had put my power in him that whole time and not myself. And so when I shifted the power inwards, I manifested a house in 1.5 years. But what was crazy about that, this is where it's getting to the shadow piece. So I was the only person on the house loan, but because of my dad's situation, we had to liquefy his assets, and I actually received some of his money for the down payment for the house. And 1.5 years after buying the house, I almost went into foreclosure. And I was like, how did I manifest this house, and why am I refusing to keep it? Because the shadow work is that I was really still pissed off at my dad, and I didn't want his money, and I still had to use his money to get in the house. And that did not satisfy my like, fuck you energy to him, where I was like, I can do this on my own and I don't ever need you, let me prove it to you, right? And the reality is that it really helped me get this house, and it helped me buy things for the house, like brand new beds and furniture, right? And so there's a piece of me that my shadow work was still unresolved with my dad. And so because of that, I almost lost my house until I broke through that last piece of shadow work, where I could really find, 1, the abundance in the home, but 2, the gratitude for my dad and I's relationship.
So it worked out well in the end.
Yeah, but just like to the guests out there, the listeners, right? There is this piece that if something is blocking your manifestation, a piece of your shadow, it could look like these are the signs. Like you're not getting the manifestation right away, which also could be a piece of, I was teaching it in my class last night, where I'm like, it's the boomerang effect, where you're like, okay, I really want a green pencil. And you're like, okay, God, I want a green pencil, and I want it to look like this and this and this and this. And then you're so attached to it that it actually comes back just like this green pencil, right? But where instead, if you're like, okay, Spirit, I really want a green pencil, a writing utensil, and please make it in the most magnificent way possible, and in perfect timing. And then you send it out to the universe to let them put their bedazzle on it, and it comes back like more magnificent than you could ever imagine, right? So there's this level of detachment. But so the signs is like, it's not happening in the timeline that you want, or you get it and then you almost lose it. That's the shadow work, right? Or it's really challenging to get it. There's a lot of effort there. And that's when you know that you have some inner work to do to clear open the blocks so that you can be in the same vibration and gratitude and the same frequency and flow of what it is you're wanting to attract. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that really does. So if somebody's listening right now and that hit a nerve and they're like, oh my goodness, that is me. I am doing that thing. What do you suggest for them as a starting point to start digging into their shadows a bit?
That's a great question, Jen. Yeah, so if this is you, the first thing I would do is I say awareness is 99% of the work. And so I would just stop and say, okay, I'm having a block, and then identify what the block is, right? Okay, so the block is that it's not coming in the timeline that I want. And then curiosity is like the biggest gift you could ever give to yourself. Okay, well, why is it not coming in the timeline I want? And then you answer that. And then you could ask yourself simple questions like, how old do I feel? Where is it showing up in my body? What emotion or what memory is coming up? And then once you get some of those answers, then you just take it a deeper level. So say you're like, okay, well, my chest feels really tight. Great. So then put your hands on your chest and you're like, okay, chest, I feel you. You're so tight right now. Why are you so tight? And then all of a sudden you just hear this word grief. And then you're like, okay, grief, I see you and I hear you. Grief, what are you speaking to me? What are you feeling so sad about right now? And then it could be a download I'm getting, and I was like, my mom left me when I was young, and I'm scared that I can't make it on my own, and I don't know how to do it without her, and I wish that she was here by my side with me, right? And then at that moment, then you can just have a little conversation with your mom, like, hey, mom, can you come through? I would like to talk to you. And without being attached, if you can hear her or not, you just have that conversation with her, like, mom, I wish that you didn't go when I was so little, and how I wish you could have been there when I first started my moon cycle and the first time I rode a bike. And you just share your heart and say, and I know that you're not physically here with me, but I know you're with me by my side. And I want you to be a part of this journey with me. Can you help me? Right? And then you just go back into that place of love, and you'll feel your chest start to open. And you might have some tears, or you might get some messages from your mom over the next few days. But then you'll notice that thing that you want will start speeding up, and the right people come in and they're like, oh, I heard that you wanted to create this. I know just the person for you, right? Like you'll start to see the shift outward start to come inward. Does that make sense?
Totally. Those little synchronicities that you feel supported, I think, whenever those synchronicities start showing up. And so for somebody who listening might be like, okay, you're naturally a psychic medium, right? So it's easy for you to say, oh, I'm just going to go have this conversation within and connect with whoever. But this is something you actually work with people on, right? Teaching them how to have those expansive conversations.
Yeah, and that's a really great thing, because to me, it's just like going to the bathroom or brushing your teeth. It's so natural. But for somebody who's more analytical or more skeptical or just more closed off, like you're absolutely right. Like it's much more of a challenge to go there because it takes vulnerability. And it takes getting out of your head and coming into your heart. And at some stage in your life, that might not have felt safe, where you felt like the way to control things or the way to be safe was to control or overanalyze or to live up here and to not feel. And so there is that piece where it's like you get to come back home to your heart, because it's really the most beautiful, cherished part of you. And to speak about the psychic thing, my belief system is that we are all born psychic. It's just a matter of strengthening that muscle and tapping into it and believing it and trusting what you're hearing. And the same goes with your heart, like trusting and knowing that it's safe to go back into your heart.
Trust. That word trust, I swear, has come up on 80 to 90% of the podcast so far this year, of learning to trust ourselves, right? It's not like we're talking about trusting our neighbors, which it would be really nice to be able to do that, but we're literally talking about trusting us and trusting the way we're feeling, trusting that intuition, trusting those little feelings we're getting. How is it so hard to trust our own being?
Well, the first thing, I mean, so much came through it there, but the first thing that's coming through is it's control. Our need to control our way of safety and trust, right? And I feel like safety and trust kind of go hand in hand. For me, it's like one of my breakthroughs, trust was actually my word last year, so I had a lot of breakthroughs around it. But one of my big takeaways last year around the word trust is that knowing that no matter what situation I am in, you're in, you trust yourself to know that you will know how to handle it. And I think the other piece is knowing that no matter what situation, whether it's good or bad, it's all working out for your highest good. Right? You brought something up about the neighbors, right? And then there's so much politics going on right now. And it's like, wow, this is so messy, but trusting that the aftermath is exactly where we're meant to be. Trusting that I'm in the right place at the right time, even if it doesn't look right. That like I'm there for some reason, and that you know exactly, that you will know exactly what to do, even if you don't know what to do. Right? It's all perfect, even if it doesn't feel perfect. I think perfect is a good thing to let go of when you're relaxing into trust.
Yeah, you have tossed back so many really profound questions. So I hope the listeners are listening to this and will listen to it again if they have to, just to get those little nuggets in there, because I feel like you're directly speaking to so many people, just like, hey, explore this question. Hey, explore this question, right? Like just those things of us being able to go within and really ask ourselves those questions and move forward from there. I just want to know what daily rituals you do or practices to keep you in alignment with your higher self.
So one of my favorites is I do this morning meditation prayer, and it kind of looks like yoga with some energy tools with some prayers. And so I literally start my morning with just sitting in silence and just breathing and just feeling my body. And then I do yoga poses that go with prayers. So like one of my yoga poses is my first one is downward dog. And I say good morning to all the women that have walked this earth with me, before me, after me. And then the next one I do plank, and I do the same prayer but to the men. And then I do one for Mother Earth, I do one for ancestors. So I do a little something that like I say hello to everything that I feel drawn to in my heart. And then at night I do the same thing, but I just actually sit in silence, because after the whole day, like the day's so busy and energetically noisy. So at the end of the day, I just sit down in front of my altar on my beautiful little cushion, and I just breathe until I feel calm and at peace in my body again. Even though the mind still flutters, like I just kept practicing breathing until I feel more of that sense of peace and safety and serenity in my own nervous system. And then that's when I go to bed. And I think the last thing that I'll say that I do that helps me the most is going and sitting in nature for 5 or 10 minutes every day. Because one, you're sitting in nature, it's grounding, but two, you get to see the birds and the butterflies and the leaves and the elements, and it just humbleizes you and brings you back to like the magic and the divinity of life and its essence, when it kind of sparks that hope in our own selves.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And
Mhm.
could you also share with the listeners what exciting things you have coming up?
Yeah, I'm so excited. Actually, my financial planner and I have been working on a book that's getting close to being in publishing. And it is about healing money when it hurts. So, how I was talking about earlier with the house, and when I received that income, so many people inherit money from family members that maybe it doesn't feel good, or there was a falling out, or there was unfairness, your sibling got more than you, and so you're kind of mad about the money. And so the book is really focused on how to heal the relationship with the loved ones on the other side through my medium perspective, and then two, how to rewrite the story so that you can actually receive the money with gratitude versus venom and anger, where you can actually receive it for what it is and for the abundance that it is, so that you actually work with the money in ways that you feel really joyful and aligned with. And so that book is coming out soon. We're in between 2 titles right now, so I will let you know when we land on the title, because it's a big concept and we're having a hard time like fitting it into a title that really lands it. But that should be coming out, I'm hoping, August or September of 2025.
Okay, I'm curious to see what title you guys end up landing on. And where else can listeners reach out to you and connect with you?
Beautiful. So I am a total social media lover. So I'm on Instagram and TikTok. My handle is Dancing Psychic. Dancing is one of the most physical ways I love to shift energy out of my body. So I love dancing. And then my website, if you want to have a session with me or if you want to take any classes, I offer an array of classes. My website is Earth, like Mother Earth, Earth Feather Healings.
Perfect. I will make sure I put that in the show notes. And before we go, I would love for you to share any piece of advice you have for someone who's really wanting to step into a life they love.
Oh, fearlessness. I feel like people want to be confident before they do the thing, but I honestly think that it takes courage to do the thing before you build the confidence. So it's like once you are doing the thing, you build the confidence. So just know that confidence will come. It just takes courage of putting one step in front of the other. And to live the life you love, I think really one of my business coach said this and it helps me. It's like do one thing that puts you one step forward into the direction you want every single day. You don't have to do 20 steps. It's just one step. So maybe you want to lose weight. I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk every day. And then one day you might go for a 40-minute walk, right? Or you want to build a business. So today I'm going to decide on the name. Tomorrow I'm going to buy the domain. You're just doing that one little step because then it makes you feel like you're trusting yourself.
Mhm.
And then you're building the confidence with yourself because you're like, okay, I'm actually reliable. I can actually do this thing. And then you're feeling really good because you did the thing. So you're not beating yourself up because you're like, I didn't do anything today. And it's literally just one step. And I always say my best manifestation tool sometimes is reading a book. It's doing absolutely nothing if you are an overachiever and want to go, 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 like type A personality, which I can kind of ground into. So sometimes my spirit guides are like, do nothing today, Melissa. And I'm like, oh, it's horrible. But I swear to God, I book more clients when I do nothing.
It's
than
letting
when
go
I'm
of that
doing-
element to control, like you said earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. And just letting them actually come to me because I think when we're doing so much, we're just putting our energy out there. But when you actually relax, you let that energy flow to you. It's like it just energetically magnetizes. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me on the show today and having this conversation with me.
Yeah. Thank you for everyone that's listening. And I look forward to connecting and growing with you.